Hi, Katie. What a pleasure to hear you sing the Miss Saigon piece today. I was so impressed with your artistry, your commitment, your presentation, all of the above. Your voice is beautiful and beautifully suited for this as well. Bravo to you and your teacher. One of the things I loved the most was your diction and your balance, your levels. This piece grew in all the right ways, and you really musically showed us this piece of art. So I commend you on the so many wonderful things going on in this. We have a very short amount of time here to give you some tips, so I want to just focus on a couple of small things that might make it even easier. You're doing so many things well, and I'm going to share my screen while I chat at you. One thing I really loved was your commitment to balancing musical theater vowels with meaning more bright, slightly more spread vowels, to also balancing that with a relaxed jaw of the more classical vowels. And I think you did that really well throughout. And there's just a couple places where I might add that you have a couple more options of vowel choice to make it easier. There's one section of the piece that goes from that very beginning low spoken pattern to the start to get into the belty section, and it climbs and builds, and that's very challenging. So I want to play you a little section here, and then I'm going to point to a couple of spots that we might be able to make a couple of adjustments.
I've tasted love beyond all fear, and you should know it's love that brought you here. And in one perfect night, when the stars burned like new, I know what I must do. I'll give you a million things I'll never own. I'll give.
Fantastic. I love the vowels on the word here and the word own, and I'm sorry, I forget the other one, but I want to see, maybe we can adjust some vowels, as in the very beginning, the word fear. That E vowel is quite spread, and I wonder if it'll help you balance making this climb if you give that E vowel just a little bit more height, maybe slight amount of A or A even to it, to make fear feel more like fear. It'll come out the same on our side, but maybe just make your life easier because that's the beginning of the climb. In the next phrase, we have the word new. We don't need you to go all the way to that classical oo vowel, but maybe a little sense of o or oo internally in between your between your hard palate and tongue might make that vowel just a little bit easier, because you'd use the same vowel a minute later and it's really nice balance. So I think that you can just add a little space there. And then as we make that climb into the mix on the phrase, I'll give you everything. So one thing I'm noticing physically is that as you go up there, again, we're at the end of this really challenging climb, there's a tension that happens in the neck there. And I wonder if you can, as you approach that, feel an opposite sensation of a downward motion rather than an upward motion. So opposing motion is our best friend when we're climbing in all styles of singing. So if you can have a sense of downward, keeping that air really engaged in it. The other thing that might help is, it's a terrible vowel on that high stuff. On the word give, can you add a little eh to it? Give. It'll sound correct out to us, but I think for you it might give you a little bit more freedom to let your jaw loose, which then could ultimately help the larynx relax and not feel that sense of needing to lock up to go upward. I think if you kind of just make those small vowel adjustments throughout, you're going to find a lot of relief to continue to make this as easy as it is as we go on. I know it's really about the vowel there because you kind of belt higher in the song as we go forward. I want to quickly move on because we have a short amount of time, as I mentioned, to another idea. I hear once in a while this pattern. Actually, it happens in every phrase, this feeling of at the end of the phrase, there is a puff of air that's being released at the end. That's just telling us there's just a little bit of built up tension. And because you're singing so beautifully, I think you need to just listen to that. Use it as a dramatic choice sometimes, but maybe not consistently, so that when it's used for dramatic purposes, it's very natural and very powerful. I suspect it's just a habit, but what happens is the larynx gets a little air built up underneath it. It's called subglottic pressure, and you can't release all of that. So a good way to practice it is to end each phrase at that phrase and then take a new breath and start the next phrase. So taking everything out of time to try to see if you can get used to letting that air that's pent up go into the sound as opposed to a puff of air like a at the end. And then finally, your characterization is so beautiful, but it's also very internal, which makes sense for the character because she's not a bombastic type character. But I wonder if some sort of physical motion, a little bit more open and broad, might be beneficial as you go into the more belty sections to continue to keep that beautiful release that you've got going on, but also contribute to the character. One thing we often do is let the character kind of get into so intense that it messes up our singing. You're not doing that at all. You're doing so many lovely things. But just a suggestion to explore to see if your characterization can also help ease the belting that comes later in the piece. I'm so impressed with you. Congrats to you and your teacher on some wonderful, wonderful singing. And hopefully these ideas can just give you some more tools for your toolbox as you continue on your journey. Good luck as in your future. I expect you'll be doing amazing things. Congratulations.